Hi everyone, and welcome to PHAMCAST. I'm your host, Margaret Wallace-Duffy, the visionary and founder of Preventative Health Awareness Month and Movement, recognized by Health Canada. And this year, in February, will be year 4 of PHAM. Now, each year since its inception, and our whole goal is to stock the preventative health toolbox of Canadians so they can get into the driver's seat of their health from a wide range of topics through the ages and stages of life. And we have different focus days every year. Well, every year since its inception, we have had real lives touched by addiction. An event that is near and dear to my heart. Each and every one of us will have either been in contact with or loved a loved one with addiction. And right now, this month, it's Recovery and Suicide Awareness Prevention Month. And so we thought it was really important here on PHAM to have these hard conversations, these real conversations about the realities of life touched by addiction. That's not just the person suffering with the addiction, but their families, their co-workers, their loved ones, and society as a whole. Now, many of you have met one of my cherished ambassadors. She's been on the show before. She's also the founder of Enable No More. Jennifer McCutcheon is back with me today. Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm amazing, so happy to be here.
Yeah, you know, we're about to dive into a really important conversation, a really necessary conversation, and a timely conversation for many people. But for you, this is a deeply personal conversation, and one that you have lived through for decades, and it hasn't been easy. You've shared your story in bits and pieces at times on this show. You've shared your story openly and courageously on the stages at Real Lives Touched by Addiction events during PHAM. But what I'm also watching you do, Jen, is step into your power to really be part of the solution moving forward to change the legacy of how we're going to deal with mental health, addiction, and recovery in this country because of what you've walked through. That, first of all, I want to say how much I admire you for that, and how privileged I feel to sit here being able to listen through the lens of a mother, and you're going to share your story, a mother and a partner who has literally lived with someone and loved someone living with addiction. The work that you're doing is often met with resistance. It's often very challenging and frustrating. And I want to just say to you, keep going, because not only is the PHAM movement here to help elevate it, but that micro movement that you are leading with Real Lives Touched by Addiction has never been more important. And so could you, for those who have not met you, share your very personal story with this so that we can dive into this topic even further?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, because this is more than just a month. This is a movement that is ongoing. Preventative Health Awareness Month and Movement, but also the Suicide Prevention and Recovery Month. This is real lives. This is what's happening. This is our communities. And I have been touched by addiction. Over 25 years of loving my loved ones in addiction as a mother and spouse touched by addiction. My own journey with mental health and addiction, not to substance, but to love, to emotion. And that's where we are all impacted by mental health and addiction from one degree to another. A term that I really love, because we hear mental health so much, and it's such a word that we're just almost becoming desensitized to.
Yes.
And brain pain is something that I feel it resonates more with me, because it's easy to look at somebody that's broken an arm and see the pain, heart problems to see the pain. There's other ways that we can identify, but with mental health, it's very foggy what that means, and it can mean so many different things for so many different people. Brain pain is really at the core of addiction and mental health. And that's really what we have to, I believe, what we need to focus more on. My journey, again, loving not only my second husband, but my first husband. I was married to 2 partners impacted by mental health and addiction, which impacted me and my children. It was my son's journey at age 15 when he began the descent into addiction and mental health challenges that really started to shake my world, shake my belief systems, and shake the way I looked at all of life. And it really did crack me open. It literally brought me to my knees, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, drained, depleted, and I like to say almost a death and being reborn into really understanding myself, others, and the world around me through a new lens. And that's what actually began my own healing and recovery journey to bring me to where I am today, with a new view, a new perspective from a family perspective, because I believe family is the missing link in breaking the cycles, the stigma, and the societal narrow vision of what is actually being experienced by everybody today.
Right. Your story is powerful, and you share it with such eloquence and confidence, but I've watched you walk through this, and it's not easy. And if we're going to be candid and real in this conversation today, I think it's really important to sort of pull back the veil a little bit and talk about, when you have, for example, a son that was in active addiction. As a mother myself, I remember days thinking about you and not knowing how I would cope. Literally thinking, I don't know how she's doing it. And I know you weren't doing it. You were just in survival mode, like any mother would do, because if you love your child more, if you help them more, it really consumed every aspect of your life. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know there's going to be someone at home that it's all fine to have the campaigns about mental health and addiction, and yes, there are programs, and we're going to talk about that later on the show. There's work being done. There's still a lot of work to do. But the real lives touched by addiction, the day-to-day consumption of living with someone or loving someone with an addiction, is a very different story than that. You said it brought you to your knees, but it also was impacting your health in a massive way, and many of your relationships. Can you speak to that? Because I think that can bring relevance to people that are suffering, and them not to feel isolated and alone, because I think they do.
100%. And isolation is such a contributor in breeding the perpetuating cycles of addiction.
Yes. Because
the isolation, the shame, and the silence, because you go inward instead of connecting, which is what we need to be doing more of. So as a mom and a spouse, and the parents and the individuals that I work with, it's all common. We are all experiencing the same things in slightly different ways. It's grueling. You wake up in the morning literally with fear piercing through your body. You spend your entire day trying to just be normal. So you're pretending that you're okay.
Put that mask on.
When you're not okay, there's nothing about you that is okay. You're still parenting other children potentially. You're you're trying to, be there for your other family members. You're going to work. I remember teaching at the college and standing in front of 100 students, and I was literally barely able to make it out of my bed that morning. Right. And yet you do it. Because this is survival. This is life. It just continues. Life keeps lifing, I always say.
Totally.
But how can this is what we need to understand. It's impacting the other siblings, it's impacting parents, it's impacting neighbors, it's impacting our workplaces, our hospitals. It's embedded everywhere. And everybody is experiencing it in slightly different ways. But the core is, how do we open up the communication to be able to get the people the help that they need, and stop ostracizing, isolating, and making it a safe place for people to show up as they are, meeting them where we are. That's what I needed. I needed somebody to meet me where I was, so I didn't have to pretend to be okay. Because even the people closest to you that are seeing it, and it's hard for them to see, my parents, for example, seeing the pain that I was in and experiencing. It still is really hard for people to hold that space, because it's triggering their own fears, inadequacies, insecurities. This is part of the cycles that are perpetuating, and why addiction is actually an awakening agent. It really is awakening people, but it comes with a very big cost of pain associated with it.
Yes. And so that is why, and thank you for sharing so vulnerably and honestly. I think that's what's needed. These conversations need to be authentic and open and raw, and they're hard. They're hard, and they make people feel uncomfortable, and for all kinds of different reasons they make us feel uncomfortable, but they're necessary. And I think, turning your experience. So let's talk about so now you've physically, you're not feeling well, you're not functioning, and you started to really focus on you. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's where Enable No More was born. And then, in the upcoming segments, we're going to talk a little bit more about, about addiction and redemption and the next steps and hope.
Yes.
So tell me about that. How did you help yourself? Because you were part of the problem. You say that.
I 100% was part of the problem. Hello, my name is Jen.
Yes.
I was perpetuating the cycles of addiction, and I own it, and I took responsibility for it. And again, it came with a lot of suffering for me, and that's my goal, is the preventative approach.
Yes.
How do we help people prevent them from going down into the deepest, darkest corners, to find the moment where they go, oh, I don't want this anymore, I need to do something different. Right? Nobody's coming to save me. And that's really what happened. It was like, I was so sick, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, depression, anxiety, digestive problems, heart problems, like everything. And then so I remember the moment, sitting in my living room, I'd been crying for hours. And it was a moment where I just was like, all of this, and nothing really has changed. I keep waiting for my son to get better, my partner to get better, and nothing was happening. It just kept sitting in this pool of nothingness. And I decided I have to be the one to change. And it was an awakening moment where I was like, I am the common denominator here. My pain, my suffering, my thoughts that would be like rolling around constantly of fear of the worst case scenarios, it wasn't changing anything. So it was that wake up moment, and I started to take ownership of my life, and I started to decide I wasn't going to waste any more time sitting on the couch crying. I was going to do things. And I started to become the yes person. If I was invited to go to yoga with somebody, I started going to yoga. I was invited to do a community event, I started saying yes. And I started to open my world up, because my world became very small. Again, isolation breeds toxicity.
Totally.
So I started to do things and learn different modalities, because I'd gone to groups, I'd been part of parenting groups and things, and they were helpful, but they still were keeping me in this no solution focused communities. It was just we talk about what we're going through, but they weren't. There was nothing tangible for me to do.
Yes, what do we do?
And that's where options are necessary. So I started learning different tools, different modalities of healing, things that aligned with me, that felt good when I was doing them. And slowly there was like this, it was like the fog came over me and it slowly left. And I was able to see a little bit more clearly, and see how I was contributing, see where I wasn't setting boundaries, see where I had actually been creating a lot of the chaos that I was experiencing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now that is taking ownership for your own health and being the CEO of your health like I've never heard, even in the most vulnerable, stressful times, because at that point, your son was still actively in addiction.
Yeah. Yes.
And so that's hard, right? That's hard, but you said, no, I've got to start to take some ownership with me. And as mothers, often when the pillar, starts to take ownership for our stuff, the ripple effect can be powerful, isn't it?
Yes.
It can be very, very powerful. I mean, everybody has to do their own work. You can't fix anybody, but...
Exactly. You can't fix anybody, and I always love to say, it's a marathon, not a sprint, because people always go, what did you do? And I'm like, I didn't do just one thing.
Right.
I did so many things, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes commitment.
Reprogramming our thoughts. This is neurology.
Yes.
We live in a quick fix world. We want a quick fix. And how human of us, we want the pain to be over, whatever the pain is.
Which is the temporary relief of addiction, of substance use, is a temporary quick fix.
Exactly.
Even though there's negative consequences.
Exactly.
And repeating the cycles.
Exactly.
So I think it's really important conversation that there is no quick fix, and there is no one solution.
Right.
There are many.
And to that point, I think it's really critical to say that means also there isn't just one way to heal from addiction or to live and cope with, because you know the rippling effect for this for lifetime, because there's consequences to action when people have been living in active addiction and maybe they've acted in ways or done things that they regret or hurt others. They have to live with that for the rest of their lives. So this is an ongoing, like you said, this is not a month or a movement. This is a life's work. And we all need to be part of the solution for this problem. It isn't just one, you know, government agency or one support program or one household. And so just to finish off this segment, we're going to come back and dig more into this really important discussion. How did Enable No More come about? I love the name, first of all.
Yes, Enable No More came about because I truly connected to my purpose through my pain, and recognizing that I could no longer enable myself to not take responsibility for my health, my happiness, and my peace. I had to be the one to change, and the ripple effect came from that. So one, it's about no longer enabling yourself, and
let that
sit in. Exactly.
You have to take responsibility. I don't have to do
right.
Like it starts here.
Enabling,
yes.
And it's not. It's enable again. It can be people like enabling is stigmatizing, and it depends on the perspective in which you're using those words.
Correct.
So enabling is I'm no longer enable myself. I'm going to take ownership, take responsibility, and reclaim my truth. Along with what happens is the ripple effect is you no longer enable your loved one. When you do your own work and you start healing your own pain and you start reprogramming the subconscious mind to empowering thoughts, it has this ripple effect. You have an energy, it's a frequency, we're energetic beings. Things start to shift, and it happens really quickly. People are surprised when they start doing this work. It really happens quickly, where you start to get the clarity, and then your loved one starts to see you're changing. You're not talking the same. You're not acting the same. You're not doing what you normally do, and then they're like intrigued. It's like, what's going on?
Or
I remember my son
resistance.
saying, there's resistance. I remember my son saying, though, Mom, I hear the way you're talking to me differently.
Wow.
And it was, again, they pick up on it. And when you start setting boundaries, can be part of another talk, but there is resistance because those people and our loved ones who are in active addiction are used to being able to manipulate. But when you reclaim your worth and you know your why behind what you're doing, you can set boundaries without guilt and shame. And you can do it from a place of absolute love, knowing that you're doing the right thing for you and for your loved one.
Well, that's an incredible way to finish off this segment, because it's so real, yet so powerful. And we're going to be back here in a moment with Jen, because we're going to dig a little bit more into the real lives touched by addiction, the ripple effect of actions when somebody has been in addiction, and how that can really impact their lives for the future. And as a society, how do we deal with that? So stay tuned. We'll be right back here at PHAMCAST talking about mental health, addiction, and hope for change in the future.